a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get started. On Gravitas tonight, we decode the key takeaways from the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Independence Day speech. We look at the significance of his statements and remarks. Can Prime Minister Modi really reduce government intrusion? That is our top focus tonight. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. Is Israel bombing the Gaza truce deal? What are the expectations from the Gaza truce talks? What lies ahead? We tell you about what's being called Ukraine's biggest drone attack on Russian airfields, along with the latest coming in from the war zone and where things might be headed. What is Mpox and why has it been declared a global emergency? Where all has it spread? As India marks its Independence Day, we get you glimpses of the celebrations in the country. All this and more lined up for you tonight.
डिजाइन इन इंडिया, इस पर हमने बल देना है. अब हमें सेक्युलर सिविल कोड की तरफ जाना होगा.
It is the 15th of August, 2024, and on this day, 77 years ago, India gained independence. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, delivered the 11th Independence Day speech from the iconic Red Fort, outlining his vision of Viksit Bharat, which is the Modi government's goal of making India a developed nation by 2047, which will be the 100th year of independence. And during his speech, he laid down several objectives for the future, promises to transform India into a global manufacturing hub, promises to replace the current quote-unquote communal civil code, and promises to enhancing the quality of life. And how exactly does the government aim to do that? Through minimum interference in the lives of India's middle class. But can the government deliver on this ambitious goal? Can Prime Minister Modi really reduce government intrusion? That is our top focus. And before we go ahead, listen in to what the Indian Prime Minister had to say.
सामान्य मानव के जीवन में सरकार की दखलें कम हो, जहां सरकार की जरूरत हो वहां अभाव न हो, और जहां सरकार की बेकारण प्रभाव भी न हो, इस प्रकार की व्यवस्था पर हम प्रतिबद्ध हैं.
Minimum interference, that is what the Prime Minister has promised. He was basically referring to the aspirations of millions of Indians, particularly those in the middle class, many of whom often feel burdened by bureaucratic hurdles and inefficiencies. He vowed that his government is committed to ensuring minimum interference and improving the ease of living. The question is, can these promises translate into real, tangible changes? It's too soon to say. Overall, Prime Minister Modi's speech was a mixed bag of statistics and promises with a few sharp ideological points. He emphasized the need for faster reforms. He vowed to work harder in his third term. And one of the key highlights of his address was the push for uniform civil code.
अब समय की मांग है कि देश में एक सेकुलर सिविल कोड हो। हमने कम्युनल सिविल कोड में 75 साल बिताए हैं, अब हमें सेक्युलर सिविल कोड की तरफ जाना होगा।
Prime Minister Modi referred to the UCC as secular civil code. And as analysts would say, by calling the existing civil code communal, Prime Minister Modi basically positioned the opposition as defenders of a discriminatory system. But this reframing does not really erase the fact that the UCC remains a deeply contentious issue, especially given India's diversity. Now, will the government implement such a sweeping change? The next big takeaway was Prime Minister Modi's statement on women's safety. Listen in.
एक समाज के नाते हमें गंभीरता से सोचना होगा कि हमारी माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों के प्रति जो अत्याचार हो रहे हैं, उसके प्रति देश का आक्रोश है, जन सामान्य का आक्रोश है। इस आक्रोश को मैं महसूस कर रहा हूं। इसको देश को, समाज को, हमारी राज्य सरकारों को गंभीरता से लेना होगा। महिलाओं के विरुद्ध अपराधों की जल्द से जल्द जांच हो, राक्षसी कृत्य करने वालों को जल्द से जल्द कड़ी सजा हो, वो समाज में विश्वास पैदा करने के लिए जरूरी है।
Referring to the outrage in the country following the horrific rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata, Prime Minister Modi said he feels the anger of the people and called for quicker investigations and harsher punishments for those who commit crimes against women. His words were strong. They basically highlight the grim reality. Despite frequent rhetoric, crimes against women continue to plague India. Prime Minister Modi also introduced the phrase "design in India, design for the world," urging citizens to build products that basically cater not only to the domestic market but also to global consumers. He talked about India's aspiration to set international benchmarks in quality, which basically ties into his broader vision of a developed India by 2047.
Design in India, इस पर हमने बल देना है। हमें कोशिश करनी है अब इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड बनने चाहिए। इंडियन स्टैंडर्ड इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड बनेंगे तब हमारी हर चीज को सहजता से मोहर लग जाएगी।
The emphasis on indigenous design and manufacturing is part of the Prime Minister's push to transform India into a global manufacturing hub. But this vision faces numerous challenges, from infrastructural constraints to global competition. And Prime Minister Modi will have to meet these challenges. Last but not the least, recognizing the strength of India lies in its youth, Prime Minister Modi made a push for more young people to join politics.
1 लाख नए नौजवान, कोई भी प्रकार का पूर्व का राजनीतिक इतिहास उनके परिवार का ना हो, ऐसे फ्रेश लोग राजनीति में आए ताकि जातिवाद से मुक्ति मिले, परिवारवाद से मुक्ति मिले, लोकतंत्र को समृद्धि मिले। और जरूरी नहीं है कि एक दल में जाए, उनको जो पसंद हो दल में जाए।
Prime Minister Modi suggested that this would help end casteism, end dynastic politics, which according to him are the biggest problems plaguing Indian democracy. By encouraging fresh blood in politics, Prime Minister Modi aimed to inject new ideas and capabilities into the system. However, the practicalities of such a move are complex. The political landscape in India is deeply entrenched. Breaking through the barriers of caste and dynastic politics, only time will tell. Can India see these changes soon? Reducing government intrusion, implementing a uniform civil code, ensuring women's safety, and transforming India into a global manufacturing hub. These are all monumental tasks. Prime Minister Modi has set high expectations, but the real test, as is the case for any government, will be in the execution, and we will have to wait and watch. 78 years on, while India has a lot to celebrate on its Independence Day, Pakistan marked its Independence Day yesterday amid an unprecedented crisis. There is trouble brewing within Pakistan's military. You see, 2 days before the country's Independence Day, former spy chief Faiz Hamid was arrested on charges of corruption and misuse of power. And today, a day after Pakistan celebrated its Independence Day, 3 more retired officers have been arrested. While the military did not disclose the names of those arrested, WION has exclusive details about who they are. Sources to WION say the arrested include Brigadier retired Ghaffar, Brigadier retired Naeem, and Colonel retired Asim. The question is, what is going on here? What were they arrested for? The military said they were arrested in connection with the case against former ISI chief Faiz Hamid for quote-unquote actions prejudicial for military discipline. That's what the Pakistan military is saying at the moment, but clearly a lot more is going on behind the scenes. After all, this is a country run by military generals, and they have rarely, if ever, acted against their own. And that is why these arrests are very curious. In a statement released today, the Pakistan military added that it continues to investigate some retired officers and their accomplices for fomenting instability at the behest of and in collusion with vested political interests, quote-unquote. Now remember, political parties and critics in Pakistan have often accused the spy agency of interfering in politics and government. Hamid was a general who served as the ISI chief from 2019 to 2021. This was during the tenure of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, currently languishing in jail after falling out with the country's powerful military. Khan allegedly did not want to relieve Hamid of his role, even though he was transferred elsewhere by the then army chief, Qamar Javed Bajwa. Now, Khan's aides and political analysts say that it was a tussle over Hamid that led to the fallout between Imran Khan and Bajwa, and that led to his ouster in 2022. Remember, Pakistan's military plays an outsized role in making or breaking governments, and Imran Khan had acted against the Pakistan army chief. Cut to 2024, the arrest of the 3 retired officers, telling us 2 things. The military now has zero tolerance for anyone showing a pro-Imran Khan stand, and the military does not care if it has to take action against retired officers. Now, is that it, or is there more to the story here? We are asking that because following the arrest of the former Pakistan spy chief on Monday, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has been making some damning allegations. He claimed that Faiz Hamid tried to, number 1, orchestrate a coup within the military, and number 2, gave information about military assets attacked by Imran Khan supporters during the riots last year. These charges are being levelled against Faiz Hamid because at one time he was the favourite of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. In fact, as per reports, Imran Khan had persuaded the then army chief Qamar Bajwa to replace Lieutenant General Asim Munir, who was serving as DG ISI with Faiz Hamid in June 2019. And Faiz Hamid was also a protege of Bajwa. When Bajwa's term ended in November 2022, it was Asim Munir who was made the army chief. Hamid took voluntary retirement. And cut to 2024, the same man who was replaced by Khan as DG ISI is now the army chief of the country. So is this then payback for Asim Munir? Interestingly, when the Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir hosted a reception for veterans on Pakistan Independence Day, Bajwa was nowhere to be seen for Munir's gathering. The who's who of the military showed up, but the absence of Munir's predecessor, Qamar Javed Bajwa, raises very big questions. Why was Bajwa left out of a gathering of army veterans? Is it because of Bajwa's staunch support of Imran Khan in the past? Is this because the military leaders never really forgave Bajwa for the catastrophic loss of prestige they faced when Imran Khan challenged the army? Is this proof of a clear rift within the army is the question. These divisions and also could not have come at a worse time for Pakistan. The economy is near collapse and General Munir is trying very hard to repair ties with the United States. Ties that were frayed, remember, as a result of what happened with Imran Khan. And to add to that, the country is beset by political and security challenges on all sides. Of course, the military bears the blame for all of this. And so unless Pakistan's generals can actually patch that rift, who knows how long Pakistan's problems will continue. Is Benjamin Netanyahu bombing the Gaza truce deal? Quite literally so. Let me tell you why we asked that question. A new round of Gaza ceasefire talks is underway in the Qatari capital Doha, with Israel's spy chief joining his US and Egyptian counterparts and Qatar's Prime Minister for the closed-door meeting. But here's what's been happening in the war zone in the meanwhile. The Palestinian health officials saying Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip overnight and into Wednesday killed at least 17 people, including 5 children and their parents. The strikes came on the eve of the new talks aimed at reaching a ceasefire. One strike hit a family home late Tuesday in the built-up Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza. It killed 5 children, ranging in the ages from 2 to 11. And their parents, according to the nearby Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. In the nearby Maghazi refugee camp, a strike on a home early Wednesday killed 4 people. That's what the hospital has said. In the southern city of Khan Yunis, the Health Ministry's emergency service said first responders recovered the bodies of 4 men killed in a strike on a residential tower late Tuesday. 2 more people were killed in a strike on a house in the northern town of Beit Lahia, according to the emergency service. This is a war that has gone on for 10 months. According to Gaza's health ministry, the overall Palestinian death toll in the war has almost reached 40,000. The US, Qatar and Egypt are hoping to broker an agreement, but the sides remain far apart on several issues after months of indirect negotiations. The White House press secretary has said that the latest round of talks is going to be key. A State Department spokesperson has said the U.S. remains committed to talks to end the conflict in Gaza, but can that really happen? Those remarks, by the way, were in response to comments from a top Hamas official that it was losing faith in America's ability to mediate a ceasefire. And the talks, remember, are happening as Iran appeared on the point of retaliating against Israel following the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. With the U.S. warships, submarines, warplanes dispatched to the region to defend Israel and deter potential attackers, Washington is hoping that a ceasefire agreement in Gaza can defuse the risk of a full-out, wider regional war. Hamas officials who have accused Israel of stalling, did not join Thursday's talks. However, mediators plan to consult with Hamas's Doha-based negotiating team after the meeting. This is what the official briefed on the talks has told Reuters. So a huge question mark remains over what the talks can actually yield. Remember, Israel and Hamas have each blamed the other for the failure to reach a deal. But in the run-up to Thursday's meeting, neither side appeared to rule out an agreement. And the biggest question remains: is Netanyahu bombing the Gaza truce deal? Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? It's been 2 years since the multi-billion-dollar pipelines transporting gas under the Baltic Sea were ruptured by a series of explosions. But what and who caused that explosion undersea still remains shrouded in mystery. And now a new report suggests that Ukrainian officials were involved in the blast. That's right, a charge that's been vehemently denied by Ukraine. Here's what we know so far. Let's break it down for you. According to claims in a report in the Wall Street Journal, the Nord Stream gas pipeline was blown up by a small Ukrainian sabotage team in the year 2022. The report says that the operation was initially approved by President Volodymyr Zelensky and then called off, but went ahead anyway. Now today, a spokesperson for the Ukrainian president has denied the claims. In a statement to news agency Reuters, the Ukrainian presidential advisor, Mikhailo Podolyak, pointed the finger at Russia. He said, and I'm quoting now, "Such an act can only be carried out with extensive technical and financial resources. And who possessed all this at the time of the bombing? Only Russia," quote unquote. The Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which carried natural gas from Russia to Germany, were damaged, remember, by explosions 7 months after the Ukraine war had started. And the damage caused to the pipeline worsened the energy crisis in Europe. Initially, Ukraine and its Western allies blamed Russia for the explosion, but reports suggested the CIA could have been involved. In fact, last year, a report suggested that US officials had seen intelligence suggesting a pro-Ukrainian group was behind the explosion. And cut to last month, the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, called the explosion an act of terrorism carried out at the obvious direction of the Americans. The new report in the Wall Street Journal says that the sabotage involved a small sailing boat and a team of 6 people. The team reportedly consisted of a combination of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians with relevant expertise. The operation reportedly used private funding but was directed by a serving army general, a man who reported to Ukraine's then commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny. The report says that Zelensky approved the plan but later backtracked after the CIA found out about it, asking Kiev to call it off. And that order, it seems, was ignored very crucially, as the team evidently pressed ahead with that mission. Zaluzhny, who now is Ukraine's ambassador to the UK, reportedly told the Wall Street Journal that he knew nothing about the operation and called the allegations a mere provocation. But we are not surprised. Ukraine has always denied involvement in the explosion. However, Germany is pressing on with an investigation that is now homing in on senior Ukrainian military officials. Now, this is significant as this is an ally of Ukraine. On Wednesday, it emerged that German authorities had issued a European arrest warrant for a man identified as Volodymyr Z, a diving instructor who lived in Poland. He allegedly dived down to the seabed to place the explosive devices on the pipeline. Now, Polish prosecutors have confirmed that they had received a European arrest warrant for a man suspected of involvement in the Nord Stream attack. In spite of the mounting evidence against Ukraine, Ukraine's European allies are warning that such reports could be a part of disinformation. Roderick Kaisewetter, a German parliament member, urged caution about the allegations against Ukraine, saying that there were intensive interests in letting all the clues lead back to Ukraine. In fact, he said that there continued to be an extensive amount of murkiness surrounding the incident and that it could not be ruled out that this was a false flag operation. That is an attempt to push the blame onto Ukraine. Now, whether or not these claims are true, one thing is for certain. 2 years later, the Nord Stream case continues to baffle everyone. Will the perpetrator of the explosion ever be found? It remains to be seen. We now get to the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war, where Ukrainian drones have reportedly struck 4 Russian airfields in what is being described as the largest attack of its kind since the war started. This move comes as Ukrainian forces push deeper into Russian territory, following a cross-border incursion early this month that caught the Kremlin by surprise. Our next report telling you more.
Ukraine's drone attacks reportedly targeted 4 Russian bases located in the southwestern regions of Kursk and Voronezh and Nizhny Novgorod, which lies to the east of Moscow. This is reportedly the most significant assault on Russia's airfields since the war started. This comes as Ukraine's ground forces continue their massive incursion, forcing thousands of Russians to flee their homes. Russia's defense ministry reported that on Wednesday, they managed to destroy 117 drones described as aircraft type, along with 4 tactical missiles in Kursk and neighboring regions. The region's governor, Alexander Gusev, said on Telegram that more than 35 drones launched by Ukraine were shot down in Voronezh. Gusev said that although there were no casualties, the attack caused damage to property, vehicles and municipal infrastructure. The Ukrainian armed forces meanwhile announced that its air force had destroyed a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber in the Kursk region on Tuesday night. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in a video address, claimed the drone strikes hit their targets exactly as planned. He also claimed that Ukrainian forces captured Russian soldiers in southern Russia and destroyed a Russian fighter jet. However, he emphasized that drones alone cannot accomplish everything, hinting at the need for additional military resources. In Belgorod, another region bordering Kursk, Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov declared a regional emergency on Wednesday. In a message on Telegram, he described the situation as extremely difficult and tense. Residents in the area began evacuating on Monday due to the advancing Ukrainian forces. Zelensky confirmed that Ukrainian troops had captured 100 Russian servicemen, adding to the tally of prisoners taken during this offensive. Kyiv's tactics have reportedly led to the capture of approximately 1,000 square kilometers of Russian territory since the start of the incursion. As the conflict continues, the situation on the ground remains fluid. Bureau Report, WION The World.
Shifting focus for now, the U.S. Navy has decided to add a new weapon to its arsenal in the South China Sea. And this is not just any weapon. It could prove to be a game changer. The AIM-174B, an air-to-air missile with the longest range ever fielded by the US, could significantly reduce China's aerial superiority, a factor that has long, in a way, tipped the scales in Beijing's favor. Now, for years, the Chinese military, with its growing fleet of advanced aircraft and long-range missiles, has posed a substantial challenge to the US and its allies in the region. But now, with the introduction of the AIM-174B, reports state that America has a tool that could not only level the playing field, but potentially tilt it in its favor. Let's just break this down for you. As per reports, this missile has a reach of up to 400 kilometers, far more than China's PL-15 missile that has a reach of up to 250 kilometers. The AIM-174B's range means the US planes can actually engage Chinese targets from a safer distance, effectively keeping critical assets like aircraft carriers out of harm's way, while still being able to strike at the heart of Chinese military operations. Now, until now, the US Navy has had to operate in extremely close proximity to Chinese forces, especially in the highly contested South China Sea and the First Island chain. And this has always been a risky proposition. As per reports, the standard AIM-120 missile, with its range of just 150 kilometers, required US planes to venture deep into contested airspace, exposing them to significant dangers. But with the AIM-174B, US aircraft can strike from much farther away, greatly reducing the risk to both the planes and the carriers they launch from. But you see, this is not just about safety. It's also about strategic advantages, of course. In any potential conflict over Taiwan or in the South China Sea, the ability to engage from a distance changes the calculations. Chinese planes, particularly those tasked with hunting down US carriers, would now be operating in a far more dangerous environment. An expert said that the Chinese planes may have to think twice before approaching, knowing that they could be shot down long before they get within the range of their targets. As per reports, this development could increase the likelihood of US involvement in any major conflict in the region. With the AIM-174B in their arsenal, the US can actually push deeper into contested areas, making it far more difficult for China to assert its dominance. This missile gives the US the ability to hold Chinese aircraft at risk from a distance, something that was not possible before. And that is going to force China to rethink its strategy. As per reports, the AIM-174B has several key advantages over its predecessors. First, like we mentioned, its range far exceeds that of the AIM-120 missile, America's previous long-range option. But beyond that, the AIM-174B does not require new production lines. It is compatible with the existing platforms, meaning that it can be deployed relatively quickly and at a lower cost than developing an entirely new missile system. Not just that, it is allegedly compatible with at least one key ally's aircraft, Australia. And speaking of Australia, this missile also strengthens America's position in its partnership with Canberra. Australia, remember, is a critical ally in the Indo-Pacific, and America is heavily investing in military infrastructure there, recognizing the strategic importance of the continent in projecting power in the South China Sea. The AIM-174B's compatibility with Australian aircraft means that the US and Australia could collaborate more closely on regional defense strategies, further bolstering the alliance and making it more difficult for China to operate freely in the region. For decades, the US maintained its aerial superiority largely through its stealth fighters, like the F-22 and the F-35. And the AIM-120 was more than sufficient to maintain that edge. But with the advent of Chinese stealth aircraft, like the J-20 and the long-range PL-15 missile, that advantage has been eroded. A Chinese J-20 could potentially detect and engage US aircraft from a distance where the US could not effectively respond, putting American pilots at serious risk. And the development of the AIM-174B is a direct response to this threat. You see, the US needed a missile that could match, if not exceed, the capabilities of the PL-15, and they might just have got it now. But the race is not over. As per reports, China is already working on missiles with even longer ranges. However, those efforts come with significant challenges, particularly in terms of targeting. The farther a missile has to travel, the more difficult it is to maintain accurate targeting data. And as it stands, the AIM-174B is not yet being produced in large numbers, but even in limited quantities, its impact is profound. The mere presence of this missile in the US Navy's arsenal may force China to reconsider its strategies and its approach to regional conflicts. The US has essentially introduced a new variable into the equation, one that makes any potential aggression in the South China Sea or against Taiwan far riskier for Beijing. In an increasingly tense region where the potential for conflict is always simmering just below the surface, this missile could very well be the difference between victory and defeat and could prove to be a game changer. And for China, that is a reality they will have to reckon with. 4 years after the COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to a virtual standstill, a new disease is on the rise in Africa, one which has the World Health Organization concerned. A new variant of the Mpox viral disease is on the rise in Africa, due to which the WHO has declared a global public health emergency of international concern. This is its highest level of alert. It is the second time in 2 years that the organization has issued the alert for the disease. Mpox cases have been found in at least 13 African countries, and its new form is spreading. Through this level of alert, the WHO aims to accelerate research, funding, and international public health measures, as well as cooperation to contain the disease. But why exactly is Mpox an emergency again? You see, 2 years ago, the WHO declared Mpox an emergency when a form of the disease began to spread globally, largely among men who have sex with men. That outbreak was brought under control after behavior change and safe sex practices. Plus, the help of vaccines basically helped the people at risk protect themselves in many countries. But Mpox has been a public health problem in many parts of Africa for decades. The first ever human case was in Congo in the year 1970, and the country has seen outbreaks ever since. The current outbreak is Congo's worst ever. The country has seen 27,000 cases and more than 1,100 deaths since January last year. That has been largely among children, by the way. The disease causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions. It is usually mild but can kill. Children, pregnant women, and people with weakened immune systems like those with HIV are all at higher risk of complications. Now, currently, 2 strains of Mpox are spreading in the country. The endemic form of the virus, as well as a new offshoot. This new form of the virus has triggered global concern. It's because it seems to be spreading quickly, and little is known about it. It is transmitting through sexual contact as well as other close contact, like among children in displacement camps. The disease has now moved from eastern Congo to Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, Kenya. So what comes next? Scientists hope that the emergency declarations will speed up efforts to get more medical tools and funding to help the authorities in Congo tackle the outbreak. Better surveillance is needed to study the virus and help stop the spread. Several challenges exist, like vaccine inequities. In the year 2022, a WHO appeal for $34 million funding to fight Mpox got no take-up from donors, and there was huge inequity in who had access to vaccine doses. African countries had no access to the 2 shots used in the global outbreak. 2 years later, that remains the case. Although there are efforts to change that, the WHO has appealed for dose donations from countries with stockpiles. The Africa CDC has also said it has a plan to secure doses, but stocks currently are limited. Which brings us to the big question. How worried should you be? Mpox is a significant health problem. It is killing some of the most vulnerable people in the world. It is possibly spreading in new ways and in new parts of Africa. But it's not COVID-19. So far, there is no evidence that it spreads through the air easily like COVID-19. But there are tools that are proven to work to stop the spread as well. The challenge, however, now is to make sure those tools actually reach those who need them the most. That is Congo and the neighboring countries. In today's digital age, cybercrime has become a very big concern. Fraudsters keep coming up with new ways to deceive people online. The digital arrest scam is one such. In the last few months, many people have lost a lot of money to that scam. In the latest, Ruchika Tandon, an associate professor from the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, lost over 2.8 crore Indian rupees to scammers posing as government officials. Tandon was held under digital arrest for 7 days.
मेरे पास मॉर्निंग में फ़ोन आया उन्होंने
I received a call in the morning with the caller introducing himself from TRAI. He told me that my phone would be switched off as per instructions from the police because several complaints were lodged with the Mumbai Cyber Cell against my number and people were getting harassing messages from this number.
During these 7 days, scammers managed to get Tandon's bank details and manipulated her into transferring money. And Tandon is not alone, by the way. There have been hundreds of cases of digital arrest scams. A man from India's Hyderabad lost over 1 crore rupees to fraudsters. Dr. Pooja Goyal, a gynecologist from the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, lost around 59 lakh rupees. The list is endless. So how exactly does a digital arrest scam work? In this scam, the victim typically receives a video call from fraudsters pretending to be law enforcement officials. Criminals basically use technology to create sophisticated setups to enhance their credibility. For instance, fake offices and uniforms are used to appear legitimate scammers. They claim that the victim is under investigation for selling illegal items like drugs or fake passports. Naive victims are intimidated and forced to self-arrest or self-quarantine themselves. Hence the name digital arrest. Fraudsters threaten the victim with legal consequences and cause panic. They use fear to compel the victim to comply with financial demands. The idea is to extort money. And in certain situations, victims are coerced into being visible on video calls until the demands are met. The most important thing to note here is that as per the Indian law, there is no such term as digital arrest. So remember, if you ever receive a video call from an unknown number, let caution be your answer. Meta-owned Instagram is in the news again, and this time the platform has been accused of its failure to remove abusive comments directed at female politicians ahead of the 2024 US elections. According to a report by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a non-profit organization, Not only were the comments sexist and racist, some of them also contained death and rape threats. As part of the study, researchers reviewed Instagram posts of 5 Democratic and 5 Republican women politicians. Some of these posts belong to Senator Elizabeth Warren, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris, Senator Marsha Blackburn, and U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was found that Instagram left around 93% of the harmful comments, even though they breached the platform's safety standards. The rise of online abuse against women politicians has drawn criticism from advocacy groups. The report highlights how social media algorithms that prioritize emotional content and engagement can unintentionally amplify this form of abuse, a problem that extends beyond the political sphere and affects millions of users worldwide. The report also highlights the urgent need for strict and effective online safety guidelines. Time now for Gravitas Recall. On this day, the 15th of August, in the year 1947, India gained independence. This day marks the culmination of a prolonged freedom struggle. The struggle for India's independence was a long journey. We all remember Jawaharlal Nehru's, India's first Prime Minister's, words from his famous Tryst with Destiny speech. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom, quote unquote. The annual celebration includes flag hoisting ceremonies, speeches, cultural programs as a part of the grand celebrations. And as we end the show tonight, we are leaving you with these visuals of celebrations in India. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Massive turning point in the West Asia conflict. Israel opens Iran war front. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran, a targeted attack during a visit to Iran for the new president's inauguration. Nearly 2,000 kilometers away in Beirut, Israel kills a top Hezbollah commander in a targeted strike. West Asia on the boil, war clouds darken, and the threat of a wider conflict grows bigger than ever.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Kenya's President William Ruto swears in his new cabinet secretaries, much to the dissatisfaction of the Gen Zs, who have harnessed the power of social media to fuel wave of protests and political activism against Ruto's 2-year-old administration. From Botswana's Letsile Tebogo, South Sudan's Bright Stars basketballers, and Algeria's legendary boxer Iman Khelif, we highlight the Olympians who broke records and elevated Africa's status at the Paris Olympics 2024. And slap fighting has been gaining traction in South Africa, often drawing crowds. The sport is seen as a positive influence in local communities. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Massive turning point in the West Asia conflict. Israel opens Iran war front. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran, a targeted attack during a visit to Iran for the new president's inauguration. Nearly 2,000 kilometers away in Beirut, Israel kills a top Hezbollah commander in a targeted strike. West Asia on the boil, war clouds darken, and the threat of a wider conflict grows bigger than ever.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.